Is your BMW's transmission slipping, shifting roughly, or past 80,000 miles? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to do a drain and fill on your BMW E90's GM transmission. So let's go ahead and get right into the video. Let's go. And so there's two main ways to change the fluid in a transmission. You have the more safe route, which is going to be a drain and fill. And basically what a drain and fill is you're just draining the fluid that's in the transmission pan and then refilling the transmission with brand new fluid. So what that's basically going to do is make your vehicle have half new transmission fluid and half old. It's going to keep just enough friction in the system to where your gears are engaging and you don't have any issues. And the second route you can take to change your car's transmission fluid is doing a full transmission flush. A transmission flush is more risky because you're basically hooking up a pump to the car's transmission and pumping out all of the old fluid, everything. And that's perfect if your car is like brand new and very low mileage. But if your car is higher mileage, that old fluid actually assists the car in shifting gears. So oftentimes when people do a transmission flush, they end up blowing their entire transmission because they can't get it to stop slipping. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do today. I'm gonna show y'all how to do a simple drain and fill on your GM transmission in your BMW E90. So let's go ahead and get right to the video. We're gonna go ahead and take this car down to the shop, lift it up, and I'll show you guys how to do it. All right guys, so here we are at the shop. We have our BMW E90 on the lift. So now we're gonna go ahead and pop it up. All right, and as you guys can see, the transmission drain plug tends to get pretty corroded if the under tray is not on the bottom of the vehicle. So what you're gonna do is use some penetrant PB Blaster. This stuff works amazing, but you're basically gonna go ahead, spray it in those seams here to free up this drain bolt, because the last thing you want is to strip out the inside of this. And then the transmission fill plug is going to be located right here. It looks to be in pretty good shape, but you can do the same thing here. Now you really want to let this penetrant sit for about 30 minutes to an hour. That way it can really soak in there and break this thing free, because we do not want to strip our drain or our fill plug. So now that's been about an hour, go ahead and grab your 17mm open-ended wrench. All we're gonna do is just loosen this. We're not gonna remove it all the way off. You don't wanna go and drain all the transmission fluid out and then find out the fill plug won't come off. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is actually loosen the fill plug first, and then once it's loose, we'll go ahead and drain out the transmission fluid. And it's gonna be on there and require some force. There we go. We can see that our fill plug did loosen off. Sweet, so now that we verified our transmission fill plug is nice and loose and not gonna give us any issues, let's go ahead and drain out all this transmission fluid. So what you're gonna use is a 5mm Allen key. Now a very important thing on these GM transmissions, make sure this Allen key is wedged all the way in there so this does not cross thread or strip or anything like that. So wedge it all the way in there, wiggle it until you feel the top of the actual screw, and then get some sort of breaker bar to give you some leverage. And now go ahead and loosen this, and then you're really gonna have to give it some force, but it should break free and loosen just like that. So that is a good sign. Let's go ahead, tighten it back on. Sweet, now let's go ahead and grab our drain pan and let this fluid drain out. All right guys, so what we wanna do is we wanna drain out the fluid, but you wanna drain it out in some sort of clear container where you can measure exactly how much you took out. You don't wanna just drain it all out into a pan, because then we won't know the exact quarts or liters that came out. So we wanna put in what we took out. So here we have that clear container. We have this oil drain to catch whatever seeps out. This little undercarriage is in the way of this transmission fluid bolt. It's gonna start dripping everywhere. So we're gonna go ahead and just loosen this and get this undercarriage out of the way. Go ahead and remove this 8mm screw. So I'll move this out of the way so our drain can come down undisturbed. Now we can see the fluid draining out. It doesn't look to be in the worst condition for 100,000 plus miles. It still has a reddish color to it, but you can definitely see the fluid is burnt by that brownish blackish color. And just to show you guys a sample of the color, that is how it looks at about 120,000 miles. So it still has a reddish color to it. So it's not the absolute worst, but you definitely see that the fluid is burning / already burnt by that brownish black color. So it's definitely not lubricating or resisting heat as well as it could. Sweet, so now that our transmission fluid's fully drained out, let's go ahead and reinstall our little drain plug here. and be extremely careful not to cross thread, so hand thread it first. And then go ahead and grab that 5mm Allen key and make sure it wedges all the way inside, and go ahead and hand tighten this thing. Do not torque this all the way down to mock Jesus. And now our transmission drain plug's fully tight. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove our transmission fill plug with our 17mm open-ended wrench and just back it off fully. Just like that. All right guys, and here we have the transmission fluid sitting in a pan, and then as well we have a little hand transfer pump that has an in and an out. And so this little arrow that says in, this is actually what's gonna trace into our transmission fluid jug. Go ahead and seat this all the way down to the bottom. And that little arrow here that says out, this is actually what's gonna trace up into the actual transmission fill plug right here. Since this E90 has the GM transmission, we're using our OEM AC Delco Dextron 6 full synthetic transmission fluid. So this transmission fluid is genuine OE to a ton of different GM transmissions on the market, but this is what I highly recommend for your E90 with the GM transmission, because it is fully synthetic, it's the OEM stuff, and on top of that, it only runs about 20-30 bucks online, link down below. On top of that, we are going to be using this Lube Guard high mileage synthetic protectant. Basically what this stuff does is enhances the lubricating qualities of the transmission fluid. And so this product also works as a friction modifier. If you just put all brand new fluid into the system, it's gonna be extremely viscous and could cause your transmission to slip. So this friction modifier right here is gonna help mitigate any slippage, and then on top of that, it's gonna make this fluid transfer heat even better. And I will have a link for this stuff down below as well, where you can go ahead and get yourself some Lube Guard. Just because it is a GM transmission, I did not use the Liqui-Moly product. I opted for this stuff instead. And now we're gonna go ahead and shake up our Lube Guard ATF additive to make sure it's nice and dispersed, no sediment. We'll go ahead and open this stuff up. And now what we're gonna go ahead and do is transfer that in tube that was in our ATF fluid into the Lube Guard, just like that. We're going to pump this whole entire Lube Guard container into the transmission. Go ahead and pump this into the transmission itself. All right, so this bottle is now empty, so we're going to pull it out and go right back into the transmission fluid right here, and then keep on pumping. And now we're simply going to go ahead and just basically start pumping fluid into the transmission. So you want to do long, even strokes, just like that. And you want to keep on filling the transmission with fluid until it starts to seep out of the fill plug. Then as you guys can see now, we have fluid starting to seep out. Now we're going to go ahead and pull out the hose and quickly cork this up. That is good for right now. All right guys, so now that our transmission fluid is filled up as much as we can get it, what we're gonna go ahead and do now is lower the car, and I'll explain to y'all why in one moment. All right guys, so now that we have our car back down floor level, what we're gonna go ahead and do is go ahead and grab yourself a code scanner just like this that can read our transmission temperatures. Now right now it's at 63 degrees Celsius. What we want to do is wait for the transmission to cool down between 30 and 50 degrees Celsius. As soon as it cools down to that temperature range, we're going to go ahead and lift the car back up and then finish filling our BMW up with more fluid. Now our transmission temperature is within that threshold of 30 to 50 degrees, so let's go ahead and lift the car right back up. All right guys, so with the engine running, we're gonna go ahead and come underneath, and now from here we're gonna grab that 17mm open-ended wrench, go ahead and loosen up our fill bolt. Now basically what we're gonna do is keep filling the transmission up until fluid comes out of the fill bolt with the motor on. Then as you guys can see now, we have fluid starting to seep out. So we're gonna go ahead and pull out our little hose. Sweet, and now that fluid's dripping out, go ahead and put our fill plug back into position. Then go ahead and tighten it down with our 17mm open-ended wrench. All right guys, so now that the transmission fluid's fully full, we wanna run the car through all of its gears. So we're gonna have it in park, throw it in reverse, neutral, drive, and you're gonna sit here and just run through all the gears manually. And although moving the gears is gonna get the fluid circulating, we actually want to put the car in an actual driving situation to make sure we don't have any slippage, any transmission shuddering, or any weird issues with the transmission. So you always want to take it out on a test drive. That way you're not throwing a curveball and you go to drive the car one morning and figure out that your transmission is slipping. So let's go ahead, take the car out on a drive. Yeah, and so far everything feels good. It's shifting nice and smoothly. I'm not feeling anything crazy, but you want to keep an eye on your RPMs because you don't want them to be shooting all the way up while you're only in first or second gear. That's how you know your transmission is slipping. And now what we want to do as well is throw this thing in sport, and we're going to check that our transmission's working perfectly fine in sport mode as well. Oh yeah, that is sporty. Nice. Nice and smooth. No clunking, no crazy shifts or anything like that. Y'all get to see the little scenic drive that I take every time I test out all my DIYs and upgrades and etc. Sweet guys, so our transmission is shifting perfectly fine after putting that brand new transmission fluid in. So I definitely call this job a success. Our transmission now is gonna last us a lot longer, a lot more years to come. That is how you drain and fill your transmission fluid on your GM transmission on these BMW E90, E92 and E93s. And guys, the transmission fluid service is extremely important to keep your car on the road. Not doing your fluid on time can lead to your transmission wearing out prematurely, leaving you stranded and leaving you with a perfectly good car that doesn't work because the transmission is bad now. Change your transmission fluid on time and your BMW will keep on pushing for miles and miles to come. As always, thank y'all so much for watching. Drop a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. I'll have links down below for all the stuff that I purchased and used. And yeah, we'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace out.